Right, people, off the cuff, Jimbo. Off the cuff, Jimbo. What did we learn from this year? Turned into a robot. That's what happens when you're off the cuff like me. More. If you like more, James Allcott, then have a look at the subscribe button. Smash it for me. And hit the like button as well as we walk through a tweet I put out where I asked, what did we learn from this Premier League season? I'm going to have a look at what you've put forward. There could be some offensive things in there. Fingers crossed there isn't. So I can just put it out nice and fresh and raw. Because that's what you get with more. With more, it's raw. So, let's see what you got to say for yourself. First one, Joshy Clark, the Clark Monster. Clark Monster General. The middle part of the table is the strongest it's ever been. Also, VAR doesn't work and needs to be removed. Oh, literally read my mind. I've just done a reaction to the last day, and obviously the misdemeanors of the Villa game and the fact that a decision was wrong. But yeah, I agree with the VAR comment. I just think the game's too subjective. I think people are always going to pick at it, and no one's ever going to be right, and it therefore becomes it's dynamite when it comes to Twitter and content and discussion, which has always been the game. But there's also been an element where you've got to swallow it. And in the Championship, you get on with that and you swallow it. And actually, to that point, I was at the playoff final yesterday. There's a decision that's been chalked off, and 3 of the 4 people around me were like, yeah, fair enough by the letter of the law. For me, and I'm going to name drop here, Curtis Davies. Yeah, that's right. Jimbo was able to talk to God. We both thought, well, the goalie can't see it. But anyway, the point is, people are going to have different takes on it, even if you have VAR. So there's going to be those disputes forevermore. And the problem is when we have PSR and people need to be careful, and the game is kind of about money now, any kind of mistake is going to be big. And so when the mistakes are big, then there's this idea of conspiracies and all that rubbish. And it's exactly the same as it was. Just the stakes are financial now more than ever before. And the implications of those finances have such a huge effect on your group, on your team, on the transfers you make. Same goes for the Europa League. For the Europa League, for Man United, it wasn't about the trophy, it was about the money. So, yeah, same for Tottenham, maybe a little bit. I mean, obviously, we've seen how much the trophy mattered. But I agree. I think actually as a society, it's a bit deep, as a society, I feel like we'd go, well, we had to get on with it. And I think that might be good for us all. Just my take on that. I think the middle part of the table has been really, really strong. Let's have a look at it. So if we have a little scroll down, I think it's been great from that point of view. Like, to have games where, Fulham Man City last game of the season, I would not have been surprised whatsoever if Fulham had beaten them. Crystal Palace can beat anyone. Everton can beat anyone now. We're at that point with a really resolute David Moyes side. And to have the likes of Man United and Tottenham finished 17th. Obviously injuries make a difference, of course. But yeah, that middle zone is really, really strong. I think it's really, really exciting. Can the recruitment of those teams, and that's the thing we've said before, is the fact that as a league, it is so dominant. And it's such an exciting place to play your football that the best from around the world want to go and play in the Premier League. And so, because it's so appetizing, and because there's so many great footballers out there, because it's the world sport, you can go and find some gems if you're smarter. And I think that is what I kind of like about the PSR thing. It's about not being richer; it's about being smarter. And I think that's really revealed itself in the league table. Like when you look at Brentford. We look at, Forest to a point, I guess, this year. Yeah, for sure. Why not? Look at Aston Villa and how they've been able to manage everything and still sort of have a real run. Brentford, absolutely. You've got to be smart. And there's, yeah. Let's keep moving. Physicality prevails, says Mika. Hello, mate. Yeah. I think to a point, I think the game's being broken, which I think everyone should be excited about. That's my belief on it. I think, that patience of positional play is not enough anymore, because I think people are seeing it. People see where everyone's going, and they're able to get around it and make life difficult. And so I think physicality and speed in transition kills. And when and where that transition happens is a different question for different teams who have different styles. Nottingham Forest are different to a PSG, right? Or a Liverpool as well, are different again, where they'll be kind of careful and then go. But when you go, you've got to go with physicality. So I would agree with that. I think we have learned that this year, and I think that's a good thing. Not overall. I think it'd be interesting to see if we're going to go back to like the early noughties, where like everyone's just everyone has to be 6 foot. You know, when I remember talking to someone, in the sort of mid noughties, and he was an academy manager at Sheffield Wednesday, and he said, if you're 6 foot, you're not going to make it. Like we let you go. Will it go back to that? I hope not. I think not, because you can't crunch anyone anymore. But I think in terms of those marginal gains, set pieces, being big boys, and having Arsenal 6'2", I think is like the perfect height, and they've got about 6, 7 players who are 6'2", so it's not too big where they can't really move. It's Declan Rice, like having all those Declan Rices, like that's good, and he's the one taking the set pieces. You know what I mean? Let's keep going. The refs are a disgrace. There we go. United are still pretty good and can win. I've seen this, Wolf. This was fishing. CTB football. Slot is much better manager than anyone expected him to be. He's not been lucky. He has tactically and systematically won the league in a league that's the most competitive it's ever been. With anyone beating anyone outside of the bottom 3, his tweaks and substitutions are class. Yeah, he's very, very impressive. And I think what's great now, and I think we're seeing it with some of the moves he's making, and I need to go into more depth in terms of like really understanding and putting together an idea of what is he really trying to do with Frimpong, but still having Salah and Gakpo in the season he's had, centre forward, Wirtz, are you playing there, son? Like, what's going on here? But I think it's when we're in a position of strength and a position of transition in terms of that is the final contract for Van Dijk and Salah, you would imagine, with Trent on his way out, who's been such a key element of it systematically. I think he's now gone, I've won the league, trust me, and he's going to be able to do that with full force, and also by not making those transfers. Not making those transfers last year is an absolute masterstroke. Obviously, hindsight's 2020, but for him to now go, oh no, actually, I'd like to play like this. And I think we will see a big change. I think he's up to something. And I think it could be one of those ones where it might feel weird to change when it's gone well. But I think he's feeling that maybe they do need to change a little bit, and something's coming, I think. But he's been outrageously good. And it shows the power of less. Less is more sometimes. Because I think it's nothing overarching, not huge ones, but like just little tweaks here and there. And probably some really good man management, again with the contracts, like with all those guys, just to keep it moving. Really, really impressive. Theo Mayer, the quality between 17th and 1st is the smallest it's ever been. Anyone can beat absolutely anyone. Absolutely. Balancing Europe with the Prem is harder than before with the new league stage format. That's interesting. I think you're an Arsenal fan. Oh God, you didn't see that, guys. Sorry. There you go. I think it is obviously hard. There is a lot of games. I think it's about depth of your squad and a range of profiles as well. I think you've got to have 2 good players in every position, which I think everyone would want before, but I think now you really need it. I think actually you saw how Aston Villa have been able to have a good season despite what happened last, all the games they've had to play. Like, it's outrageous. And that's why the Villa season's been a huge success, even though obviously it feels like you've not been able to go over the line. Because if you look at what Newcastle struggled with, that's where you see the difference in depth at that time. But yeah, I guess you've got more games. So that does make it harder overall. And certainly, yeah, I think Arsenal maybe struggle with that when it comes to the league. Gary Saunders, that cup win means more than pushing the narrative of the top 4. I love this. I love this one. I think we have learnt that. I really think we have. I think I was chatting to JCC, played golf with him the other day, and he's a Fulham fan, and I said, your fan base, I think going into that Palace game, obviously you wanted it, but I think if that was happening again next year, you'd be frothing. Do you know what I mean? Because 17th and 1st, it's never been smaller. You, as a mid-table Premier League club, it's not one where you go, God, let's throw it away because, look, we're all a bit tired anyway. Go and win it. Go and win it. Because for Palace, that's one where a team that's 12th has now gone and won the FA Cup and will be a strong team in the Europa League. And who knows what could happen? Who knows? And that can allow you to keep great players. We've got a whole video on this channel talking about it with Palace, about how they could keep Mark Gay and they could keep all these players, especially with the World Cup coming next year. And say they win the Europa League, then all of a sudden they're a Champions League club. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And just, the tears, the emotion of... And it always pulls into focus, and we'll forget it. We'll forget it when it comes to, November or whatever. But me as a QPR fan, seeing Sunderland sit in Palace, seeing even Spurs fans change their mind. Some of them not bothered about the Europa League, and then all of a sudden, hang on. I think everyone's had a real slap in the face there, because it's there to be won. And honestly, I've seen the bemusement in the eyes of these people when you get it done. There's no higher drug when it comes to, or certainly not a legal one, when it comes to football. What a privilege to have that opportunity to win it like that. Say Sunderland. And let me tell you a story, actually. So yesterday, I watched the Sunderland Sheffield United game, and as the game was kicking off, Luke O'Nien, the captain for Sunderland, he turns and he sort of points over my head and he goes like that. And I look over, and there's a guy, he's probably about 60. And he's crying. He's in a suit. He's crying his eyes out. And the visceral scream he screamed back at Luke O'Nien was incredible. And I was like, that's got to be his dad. Has to be his dad. Honestly, it was like childbirth. It was crazy. Luke O'Nien then dislocates his shoulder, the captain of Sunderland, after about a minute and a half. And he comes off, and I'm looking over, he's crying again. I'm like, wow, okay, Jesus, that's heartbreaking for him. Game carries on, and of course Sunderland turn it around. Luke O'Nien's running down when they score their first goal, and then they score the winner in the 95th minute. And obviously I'm looking, and I can see him. He's crying again. He's just constantly, he's in bits. And then the final whistle's about to blow. I was able to film the final whistle and see them all running on. And then I turn around, and he's with a sort of younger guy who I guess is another. I was thinking it must be another son or something. And they're crying, and they're hugging, they're embracing, they're in absolute bits. They can't believe it, right? And I turn and I go, "Can I take your picture?" And they take this picture, and I'll show you. I don't want to. You might not want me to say, but they are in bits. And so then I go round because I've got the video and I've got that picture. And I was like, "Can I send you these pictures? You need to have these pictures." And I was like, "So how do you know Luke? Is he your son?" He's like. And he went, "What?" I went, you must know Luke. You have to know Luke. I saw it happened. And he's like, "No, man, just a Sunderland fan. And I didn't think I was going to get a ticket." And I can't believe it. And he's there with his son. So, but the point is this, right? When someone comes and plays for your club, they become family, right? But it's like a second cousin initially. Right? Because you don't know if you like them yet, and you don't really know them, and you don't really care for them. They haven't really done anything for you, right? But if you can bring them, a trophy, a moment, something like that, if you can make something matter, win a cup final, you are forget you're a legend, you're an icon, or I think we just throw away. You are family, close family. You're that relationship. I saw it yesterday. They're like Luke O'Nien's become like a son to that guy. That's the love that's there. So that's why cup wins mean more than pushing the rest of the top four, because you can't compare the explosion of a cup final or of true achievement, of true achievement. You just can't. Anyway. Quality of refereeing's toilet. Okay. Yeah, Ange wins stuff in his second season. I mean, it's true, isn't it? Factually accurate. Oh, we'll never know. Tottenham are bigger than Arsenal. Let me know in the comments down below. Not touching that. FSG are the best operators in football. Spurs may make more profit. City might have more trophies. But overall, FSG has done a brilliant job improving infrastructure. Okay. I'll take your word for it. I think they have absolutely played a blinder this year. Obviously, you know, if you've got an asset like Trent, you want to make some money from that. So I think you sort of chuck that in with all of it. But that's clearly a very complicated situation. Forest are massive. I think Forest obviously have just jumped up a huge amount. It's going to be interesting to see. Forest fans, how do you feel? Can this style of play continue? Or do you always, like we're talking about with Arne Slot, do you have to always be moving forward? I think we have learnt that you've got to bring in that quality to stay in the division. And if you can do it right and then add the right pieces together and then add a manager that can keep it together and get buy-in, you've got a real opportunity of jumping up the league, of going from, low in the league to high in the league. I think Everton should be looking at that. They've got real opportunity in the window to make a lot of changes to that squad, completely refresh it with a manager who's got power, credit, trust. And then from there, why can't Everton, jump up? Forest have proven you can do it. If you can get 2-3 good windows and sort of, water those seeds and then see them grow. Can Forest keep that going themselves? Can Hudson-Odoi have another season of this level? Gibbs White, Wood. You are wondering, right? He's obviously not getting any younger. Has an outrageous season. Alanga, can he go and do it again when it's one where it's like before maybe people going, no, I know it's Forest and then having a good season, but I think next year what you often see is there is that respect, and that can make life a little bit harder. We'll see. But yeah, maybe they are massive. I think they probably are. If you think of where they were like a couple of seasons ago, they were, mid-table championship. So it's amazing. Damien, managers shouldn't be regarded as not good enough only for having managed in lower quality league before. I think you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I think we need to be all managers, like people in the game who, or recently out of the game, like their knowledge is like wild, like really high. For those that are observant, it's really, really strong because they're in it and around it, and it's been very tactical for a good while now. Newcastle are ready to be unleashed. I have said it. I've said it on the Ripple Effect, of course. By the way, thank you for everyone supporting the Ripple Effect. If you could, keep supporting it and keep watching it and get involved in the comments, but also follow it as well. That would just be amazing because nothing's guaranteed when it comes to that. So we want to keep leveling up and bringing in amazing guests. That's my big aim for the summer. But on that, I have said several times, I think Newcastle are probably an injury-free season and 3 players away from really pushing. For the league, I mean it. Because in terms of the spine, there's a lot to be excited about. I think they definitely need a couple of signature signings. I think Dean Huijsen would have been absolutely huge for them. They could have got it. But there's a lot of talent there. There's an incredible manager there. There's a fan base that believes in that manager. And yeah, I think I like that one. Unleashed. He always wins something in the second season. Yep. It's predictably boring. What does kind of happen which is annoying, is that I thought this was like, oh come on, and maybe I got done by this by my predictions. That top 4 or 5, to see Forest get in there would have just been brilliant, or to see Brighton get in there would have been just brilliant. For it to be like Man City and Chelsea to kind of almost get away with it, and obviously I'm coming from that angle of it, but yeah, it did revert to the mean a little bit. Chiesa is a brilliant song. Okay, Woody, hello mate. Not to get too excited about the Premier League. I'm guessing that's Piers. Piers is a Southend fan, and he be getting excited. A club's fortunes can turn around in a heartbeat, for better or for worse. Yep, Van Dijk is a goat. I think, yeah. I said it yesterday on Saturday Social. I think if Salah doesn't win, if they were saying if Salah couldn't win the Premier Player this season, who would it be? I think you've got to have someone who's won the league. I get Isak's a joke, but I think I would have gone Van Dijk. I think his ability, don't want to push the Ripple Effect too hard, but like his ability to make everyone around him is just so much better, and he's just imperious. Like what season he's had, and he's a quarterback. These long passes that he's just like drilling about, like that's not easy. That is really not easy, and he's just. I think he's before his time a little bit. I think those centre backs are so important in their passing, both short and long now. You've got to be just so good if you want to be on the best teams. Because, short passing is not dead, obviously, but it's like you have to have that variance to catch people out. And Van Dijk has that in abundance. Like, he's a joke. Fitness is becoming the most important aspect of the game. The Premier League is so intense. There's no room to rest. So then Mo Salah or Declan Rice become so crucial for your team. Yeah, I mean, the best ability is availability. Don't think there's any way around that. I think that's where Declan Rice, is both being sort of thought about in these Premier League teams this season, and obviously, and the fact that he's just not wilted. That is also like a huge strength of him. Salah as well. Like Salah's like every year the consistency is a joke. We're gonna get Elliot. This is post match, so we're gonna get a lot of refereeing. You didn't rate Chelsea enough yet again. Well, that's interesting. I'm going to do my reacting to my predictions. I can't actually remember where I put Chelsea, but I put them 5th or 4th. I'm sure I did. At the start of the season, I thought with the run of games that they had, to be fair to Finlay, I thought with the run of games to the end of the season, I thought they would miss out. I did, and I think some of the other guys maybe didn't totally capitalise on it. But let's have a look at Chelsea's last few games. Probably pretty strong, isn't it? There you go. 1 for the last 5. So fair play. No, got it done. And I thought it was a tricky run. Let's have a look, because I'm sure I played a lot of the guys around them, right? I think I was saying, look, West London derby, they've won that. Everton, obviously, difficult at the time to beat Liverpool. Obviously, they've come off the back of winning the league, so maybe there's something in that. But still, can't take away from that. Man sent off against Newcastle. Got it done against Man United, which is always a big game. It's often a draw. And to win Forest away. So fair play. Yeah, maybe I did. But obviously, that'll happen at times. But yeah, well done. Sam, Liverpool very good. City are in desperate need of a rebuild. Chelsea aren't as bad a place as everyone thought. I think it's like it's the maturation point, which I've said before. I think it's clearly coming. And again, I think look, Chelsea and Newcastle, same thing. They are sort of they're maybe 2 years away more than 3 players away. Obviously, I think the striker and a goalkeeper, I think they're there, right? Don't you think? Tom, Chelsea are progressing and need to be taken seriously as a project. Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. But I think that's the thing. When they were saying like we can't win a league, that'd be silly. I do think he made a mistake there because, like in January, the feeling in the chat around Chelsea was very, very poisonous because it had fallen off. And I think a different attitude in that moment might have helped. But got over the line, got it done. Champions League spots. That was absolutely necessary for this Chelsea team. And I think it is progressing. I think you're right. Trophies better than second in the league. I think it's true. Spurs are inevitable. Availability is the best ability. Good. Possession even more overrated than we thought. I think that's been really pulled into focus this year. I think that's totally bang on. I don't think possession matters as much as it used to because it's about what you're doing in transition. I love that song. Love it. Refereeing standard refereeing. Yeah. David Moyes' boss. Park End views. Isn't he? That's when, one of my calm takes was whoever get David Moyes is of a team that's struggling, and Everton were at the time, will be fine. Will stay up. Good, steady, solid manager. Diligent manager. And, yeah, he's doing brilliantly. Again, I think it's a really exciting time. Really exciting time for Everton, especially going into the new stadium. He who laughs last, laughs longest. Ange, yeah. Can they do it again? There has to be a massive jump. So Tottenham fans, where do Tottenham need to finish next season for Ange to stick around again? Because I think you would have thought you're not going to win the Champions League, right? Hey, who knows? So the league form has to be better, right? Mo Salah, best footballer ever. There is a video on that debate. If you want to have a little look. Every game matters. Bang on. It's nowhere near the spectacle it used to be. I don't know. I think the problem is that the top thing, the bottom thing, was over so soon. So you've then got a month to get to that final last 2 weeks where you've had cup finals and you've had the final day really, really mattering. So I get how you're feeling. I don't think it's always going to be the case. United, the true United, are a massive club. Newcastle United is saying that. The fit squad will win multiple championships, especially in increasingly congested seasons. Rest and recovery going to be as important as your top end talent. Interesting. Yeah, I'll think about that. I'll let that sit with me. Doesn't matter where you finish. A trophy is all that matters. There you go. Position play isn't the pinnacle of football anymore. I totally agree. I think we're going to see this more and more. You know, as I said, I've spoken about it. It's on Ripple Effect. Jamie Hamilton, great podcast. Definitely check him out, guys. It's about, instead of the spaces creating the combinations, it's about the combinations creating the space, really, and the ability to work together in tight-knit areas. Like, that is the game breaker for a bit. Then what might happen, it might be interesting, is that there will be, but some of those patterns of play are, you can't totally defend against. You know, like I can't remember. I don't think it's called the Corteluz. Maybe it's like lights out, which is a bit like a dummy, basically a dummy. It's so difficult to defend against that you can't get away from it. So that it might not get figured out like positional play has. But possessional play and positional play, I think, are very high level ways of playing football, and that's why they've been so successful. But I think at the top level, you're going to have to need a little bit more. You're going to need to be able to take players out of the game with your dribbling, and I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to have more dribblers going straight at players, and it's those players, those exciting players that we miss, that I think are going to become more and more important, because, yeah, you've got to be able to beat a man these days. Luck is a serious thing. Oh, don't do that. It's more fun to be the worst team to do something than it is to be the best team not to do something. Yeah, that's interesting. Next time someone asks you if you take 17th for a trophy, the answer is 1,000,000 times yes. Interesting. There we go. Lots of other stuff, lots of bants. Slot's just a tactically chill guy. That is spot on. Refs are awful. Yep. Salah is the GOAT. Bowen is close second. Bowen has had a really good season. He's gone massively under the radar, by the way, because obviously West Ham have been awful. Football was chaos. Yep. And I think maybe we're there. Maybe we're done. Okay. A lot of ref stuff. City Immortal. It's a good one. That is a good one. Let's end on that, because they have just been out. They've just been so good. And you're just thinking, how? And when it's like that, you're beaten before you start. Like, I've spoken to a few pros about that, and they've said, it's horrible. Like, you're in the tunnel and you're just thinking, we'll come out of there with 2-0 and I'm quite happy. So to see that they can be beaten allows us to continue to love the game. And I think there's a lot to love about the game, and I think it's fine. The game itself, there's so much still to enjoy. And I think that's great. And I think I've definitely learned that. And it's one where, at times you're thinking, everyone's getting a bit fed up here. And actually, I feel like I think it's coming. I think it's all going to be just fine. And I think the more the game becomes elite, the more there needs to be unpredictability. So those are my thoughts. And that's what I've learned this year. What have you learned? Let me know in the comments down below. All right. Subscribe, please.